Okay. Okay, part 3.
Another person of interest who isn't mentioned in here, or maybe he is. I know I read so much in different places this morning, I'm confused. This is the life and death of Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, Nazi spy master. He was in charge of military intelligence, German military intelligence during World War II. And guess whose side he was on? He was on our side.
Wow.
And nobody knows about this man. He was implicated in the assassination attempt on Hitler, and he was one of those who was executed. Particularly cruel way. They hung him, and then after he lost conscience, they cut him down, revived, and then hung him again. Sadism. Now, give you an idea of how beneficial he was on our side. Gibraltar, they're at the tip of Spain, is the stronghold that controls what goes in and out of the Mediterranean. And the British had to send supplies, through Gibraltar. Hitler wanted to take Gibraltar. He wanted to choke off the Mediterranean from the British. And anyway, Hitler had a meeting with Franco. Admiral Canaris gave Franco the talking points about why this isn't a good idea. It can't be done. One of the things he said, the roads here in Spain, they're so poor. They could never support German troops. And another thing was the Germans were already preparing to invade Russia, and they'd sent all this heavy artillery to the Eastern Front. And Franco told them, to take Gibraltar, you have to use such type of artillery. Anyway, Canaris gave, as we said, a talking point to Franco. And so Hitler then gave up the idea of trying to take Gibraltar and choke off the British from the Mediterranean.
I had no idea.
And he was on our side. In fact, he went to Ankara in Turkey, and by phone talked with our ambassador. He wanted to discuss overthrowing German military, overthrowing Hitler and so forth, and terms for all that. He spoke personally by phone. He went to Ankara and spoke with our ambassador, but our side wouldn't cooperate with him. But the reason I'm bringing him up in this context is I checked the bibliography over the index, and here's Joseph Miller, pages 180 to 85, 195, 205, 215, 16, 226, 228, 230, 245, 250, 253, 250. I mean, Miller, Pius the 12th, contact man with all of this espionage in Germany, was in contact with
the Nazi spy master.
How many Americans know of this man?
Not me. Not until today.
It's really sad.
That is sad.
I mean, we have these people who are keys to the existence we have today, and nobody knows about them. Very, very sad. Well, how much time do we have left?
You've only, on our part 3, you've only been speaking 3 whole minutes.
Oh, this is 3. Oh, I didn't realize that we finished 2 already. Okay. Anyway, this man, Miller, he was arrested. And on April 15th, he was in one of the German concentration camps, Flossenburg. On April the 15th, Miller and other prisoners boarded a truck at Dachau, bound for Austria. See, the Germans were doing this. They were moving these prisoners away. And on April the 30th, well, Hitler and Eva Braun committed suicide. So he was on the road in a truck where these prisoners or political prisoners were being transferred from Dachau to Austria. And it was at that time that Hitler committed suicide. And then shortly after the war ended, on June 1st, Miller met with U.S. intelligence officers and the Pope at the Vatican. And the next day, Pius convened the cardinals and, quote, alluded to the coup plots, C-O-U-P, obligatory referencing his own role, unquote. Said Miller escaped death, helped rebuild his country, and, quote, working as a U.S. intelligence agent, he confounded the Bavarian wing of the Christian Democratic Party. He co-founded the Bavarian wing of the Christian Democratic Party, which dominated West German politics, unquote. As Bavarian Minister of Justice, Miller led the prosecution of Nazi war criminals not sentenced at Nuremberg, and in the end, quote, was a quiet maker of the post-war church and world. His wartime interfaith efforts helped spark the reforms of the Second Vatican Council, which hailed the spiritual authenticity of Judaism. Miller died in 1979 with the dream of a united Europe unrealized, but within reach. Now, notice it says here, his wartime interfaith efforts helped spark. Remember I told you he and Bonhoeffer were working together?
Yes.
I mean, Catholic and Protestant clergy work together. And a lot of people don't realize this. And I'm going to go on now to Pope John the 23rd and the Second Vatican Council. Now, for centuries, from the 16th century onward, in Germany, you had this division between the sort of the north and northeastern part, which was Protestant, and the west and the southern part, which was heavily Catholic. And there was a Cold War that went on and on and on and on. And the collaboration between on the part of the Catholics and Protestants in wartime Germany caused a melting of this animosity. And I have always told people, and I don't know where I got this idea, I've always told people that I thought one of the reasons why Pope John the 23rd convoked the Second Vatican Council was he thought that maybe there, for the first time in centuries, there's an opportunity to seek reunion. Because his emphasis was not on changing anything. In fact, if you read his addresses before and at the beginning of the Second Vatican Council, he talks all the time about not doing any harm to the deposit of faith, not tampering that's untouchable.
Does not change.
Yeah. Well, like in the letter to the one letter of Jude, it talks about the faith given once. That's the deposit of faith. And Pius and John the 23rd was insistent. We're not going to mess with the faith. But what he did was he was thinking maybe there's an opportunity here for us to approach our separated brothers, who for the first time maybe have an openness to deal with this. And his whole idea was to see the way we present the faith, the way we live the faith, does it cause misunderstandings? And can we make adjustments in a lot of things so that we will get rid of this debris, and then there will be the possibility of reunion.
Yeah.
I remember back in those days, somebody using this little story to illustrate how there can be, great misunderstanding. It has to do with heaven. The Lord, he's seeing all these sinners in heaven, and so he says to St. Peter, what's going on? I see all these sinners here in heaven. And St. Peter says, disgusted, well, every time I turn away at the gate, they go back in the rear, and your mother opens a window for them. Now, a Lutheran in the midst of all of this, he said, now, you see, now, to us, that's a good Catholic joke, huh? Catholic humor. But this Lutheran pointed out, coming to Lutheran ears, the message in that is...
that's the misunderstanding.
The message is Jesus represents justice, Mary represents mercy.
Yeah.
You see? Now, I remember that joke back there. It's only later that I read this commentary from this Lutheran saying how, from whichever side you're looking at it, the appearance is very, very, very different. And so this is what I mean when I think that what John the 23rd had in mind was, what do we do? How do we say things? And so forth, that cause that are misrepresentation and turn off the other side.
Right.
Are there some adjustments that we can make?
Right.
Like I said, to get rid of all this historical debris, and so there can be a sort of a pristine approach now between us. And because when you suffer together, it changes the perspective.
It certainly does.
And I hear people all the time, blasting John the 23rd and the Second Vatican Council. They set out to change things and so on. See, it's good to be old. I've lived through so much. And I've had so many interesting things cross my path.
Yeah.
I don't know how I come in contact with all these, all this wonderful information. It's just out there. All these nuggets, that are waiting to be picked up.
You're the one to put them together, Monsignor.
Yeah.
You're the one to put them all together.
Connecting the dots.
That's right.
Well, there was something here at the end of this article that I didn't have time to look at closely. Let me get it back. It says, Pius XII, more vindication. A BBC reporter during Pope Francis' visit to Auschwitz in July, now that was in 2016, 4 years ago. A BBC reporter during Pope Francis' visit to Auschwitz in July told viewers, quote, silence was the response of the Catholic Church when Nazi Germany demonized Jewish people and then attempted to eradicate Jews from Europe. Now that's a BBC reporter, huh? And then it goes on. But now, after strong protests from concerned Catholics led by Lord Alton and Father Leo Chamberlain, the BBC's editorial complaint unit has found that the report, quote, did not give true weight to public statements by successive popes on the efforts made on the instructions of Pius XII to rescue Jews from Nazi persecution and perquote a view which is at odds with the balance of evidence. Unquote. Unquote. While this correction might seem like brief and passing news, for those of us who fought to clear the good name of Pius XII, it constitutes a major victory. After years of protesting outrageously slanted reports and documentaries on Pius XII's alleged complicity in the Holocaust and having our heavily documented rebuttals ignored, here at last was progress. The battle to rescue the reputation is finally being won. So what we have here is a beginning of a revision of the revision.
The evidence is coming in. The evidence is piling up.
But so often it takes so long, so long for this to permeate, the general public. For example, I told you about this man. I got this telephone call from this man down the Clear Lake area. This was back in the 1990s. I tried to pass on information of this sort to him. Mine was closed. He knew. I was just being a loyal company man. I wasn't an objective observer, and my knowledge of history was prejudice, and I guess is what his reaction was. So sadly, he never came to Annunciation.
He missed out on a lot, a whole lot.
Well, this concludes the talking heads of Atascocita for this week. I hope this has been informative to you, and these books and these movies that I've talked about are wonderful, and if you can show them to your children, I think they would really, really be inspirational to the children.
Truth is beautiful, so share the truth with everybody you know. The truth is, I'm very, very thankful that you joined us today. Thank you, Monsignor.
And fear not, little flock, it has pleased your Father to give you the kingdom.
Amen. Thank you.